Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Asya, for those of you who are new here. In this video, I'm excited to share with you everything you need to know about traveling to Cuba. I've been to Cuba 5 times and 3 times in the last year and a half with the love of my life, Pablo, who I'm sure you've seen in my Instagram and in my other videos on YouTube. And if you haven't yet, check out my most recent vlogs from our last 2 trips in Cuba. Cuba is one of our favorite getaways and I can't wait to go back. Unfortunately, this pandemic has had a major negative impact on the tourism there, as Cuba is like one of many countries that heavily relies on tourism. We will go back again soon, and I will do some hotel reviews as well as share the top things to do in Cuba. So in the meantime, if you're excited for this video, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you're notified whenever I post a new video. So the big question is, what's open? And currently right now, it's only the cayos that are open for tourism because of the pandemic. They're trying to restrict the movement of tourism onto the main island. And you also are required to present a negative test result upon arrival. So first and most important thing is the currency. So Cuba uses 2 currencies. It's the CUC, the Cuban convertible peso, or the CUP, which is the Cuban national peso. You don't have to worry about the CUP because automatically as an international, when you exchange your money, they always give you CUC, or people on the island, they call them cook. So they all automatically give you the cook. You don't have to distinguish between the 2. Now, the Cuban government, apparently, from what we heard last time, is that they're working on actually eliminating the CUC, which depends on when you watch this video, you don't have to worry about right now into the 2020 because it's not going to happen for a while. Now, the exchange rate typically is about 1 USD for 1 CUC. At a hotel, it's around $1.34 US for 1 CUC. But when you land in Cuba at whatever airport, the exchange rate is definitely better there than the hotel that you're going to be staying at. One thing to note is that when you're doing a cash exchange or you're withdrawing money, make sure to have your passport with you. Also, if you run out of CUC, but you have US dollars with you, most merchants will actually accept your US dollars and they will give you the accurate exchange rate. And we figured this out because when we were in Plaza La Estrella in Cayo Santa Maria, we were doing some shopping, we ran out of CUC, we didn't have our passports when we tried to exchange the money, and we spoke with one of the merchants and they said, we actually will accept your USD and we'll give you the accurate exchange rate, which they ended up doing, and that's how we finished our shopping. The other thing I would say is to take cash with you. Cash is more widely accepted in Cuba and you'll have an easier time getting around if you have cash because some places don't even accept it. So I highly recommend to get cash, and make sure that when you do exchange your money, get lots of ones because most people don't actually have change, and that is really helpful when you're tipping. Probably the most important thing that I would want you to take away from this video is no international banking. This one was tough because we had to learn the hard way. At the time we were banking with Tangerine and we tried to do an email money transfer. We tried to withdraw money from the ATM. We tried to pay a bill. We couldn't do anything. And when I called the agent, they said it's a sanctioned country. Unfortunately, you can't do anything except check your balance. With TD, the only thing you can do is check your balance and withdraw money, but you can do email money transfers. Electricity, do you need an adapter? In Cuba, they use 220 volts. In North America, we use 110. So some hotels actually have dual voltage plugs in the rooms, but I would recommend to call the hotel and ask first. Check your electronics because some of your electronic chargers are actually equipped for dual voltage. So this is the iPhone charger. This one is actually, the input is 100 to 240 voltage. If the hotel actually has dual voltage plugs in the rooms, then you can use this. But if they don't, then this will not work. Tourist tickets, visas. So when you land in Cuba, no matter what passport you have or where you're coming from, you will need a tourist ticket / visa. So they hand these out on the airplane. When you get there, you have to fill it out and you have to keep it with you, and you have to fill out both sides of the actual ticket. If you lose it or you actually make a mistake on it, they'll charge you $10 for another one, and you will need to keep it. Make sure you don't lose it, nothing happens to it, because you will need to present it when you leave Cuba. Health insurance. Health insurance is mandatory when you're traveling to Cuba. The last 3 times that we went, we were actually not asked for proof at customs, but apparently that there is a chance that they might ask you, and if you don't have it, they'll force you to buy the insurance before you can actually enter Cuba. So I always recommend it anyways, better safe than sorry. Print all your documents in advance. Tech is hard to come by in Cuba, so I always recommend to print it. Print all your travel, your flight documentation, your hotel confirmation, have it handy with you, as well as the travel insurance in case they ask for it and you can't connect on Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi, no matter where you go, hotels, restaurants, every single hotel, it's all the same. You pay 1 CUC for 1 hour, and you get this little paper card. You have to scratch off the code, and then you enter that code when you log into the Wi-Fi that's the password, plus the Wi-Fi name. If you're not using your internet, it'll log you out, and then you have to enter it every single time again. And it's this long code. It gets to be kind of a pain, but you get used to it. So sometimes you can get a signal in your room, depending on what hotel you are and depending on which part of the hotel you are. And sometimes it's just the lobby, or you might get lucky, you get reception at one of the restaurants. So it's kind of a hit and miss, and you just kind of have to take your chances and play around. But this could be a good time to completely unplug from technology and social media. You can take pictures on your iPhone, and then later on when you get home, you can do everything like that. International calling. So when I travel to Cuba, I always put my phone on airplane mode so I don't get any data or roaming charges. What you can do is you can use FaceTime, WhatsApp, and one of my favorite apps for international calling is Text Now. I recommended it in one of my blog posts. When you create a profile, it gives you a phone number, and then that app, whenever you're connected to Wi-Fi, you can use the app to call anywhere. Travel and airports. On your way to Cuba, you will be able to likely check in online and print your electronic boarding pass, have it on your phone, and off you go. But on your way home from Cuba, there's nowhere, like even if you use the hotel computer, you cannot check in online and you can't have an electronic boarding pass. You'll have to do that manually when you get to the airport. One thing I would highly recommend is to buy access to the airport lounge, which is 30 CUC per person. And when you get to the airport, there's a lady that will meet you there. She'll take you to the front of every single line, the check-in line, the customs line, the security line, and then off you go into the lounge. And then once at the lounge, it's fully air conditioned, and you get 1 hour free Wi-Fi per person. You get free drinks, free food, and I can't recommend it enough. Food in Cuba. This is one thing that people complain a lot about, the food in Cuba, but I believe the reason is because we in North America, we're so used to processed food that's not actually food. But in Cuba, it's natural, it's real food, and that's not highly processed. So, I mean, you do get burgers and fries and stuff like the Cuban way. The food really depends as well on the hotel you're staying at, because one of the hotels that we went to, we weren't crazy about the food, but at the Royalton Hicacos, Melia Las Americas, those two, they had great food. The buffet was good, but I find that the a la carte restaurants are actually a lot better. And if you leave the resort and you go to these local restaurants, I find the food to be really good as well. When we went to Veradero, we sat down in one restaurant, the food was amazing. One thing that I noticed as a trend in Cuba, and no matter what resort we've been to, is restaurants tend to run out of certain food. So for example, one day the buffet did not have wine, then later on we went to the bar and they did have wine. Another time we were at one of the pool bars and they ran out of fries. Then the next day they had fries. So it's kind of a hit and miss. Sometimes they run out of inventory, but I find that they don't share the inventory. So for example, if one restaurant runs out of something, like they don't take it from like one of the other restaurants. The best time to visit Cuba. We went in March twice, and then we went in August. I find August to be better because I'm the kind of person that I love the heat. And in August also the water is a lot warmer. And even though August is like rainy season, hurricane season, when we went it barely rained for like maybe a couple days, an hour or two, and then again it was sunny. The other thing I would say is based on where you go in Cuba, we went to Veradero twice and Cayo Santa Maria, and we never went back to Cayo Santa Maria because of the mosquitoes and the sand mites. They bite you like crazy. We were covered in bites. So when we went to Veradero, even though we went once in March, once in August, it was not even close. Like we maybe got a few mosquito bites and that was it. So definitely if you don't want to get bitten, and if you're prone to that, I would avoid Cayo Santa Maria. I don't know about Cayo Coco because I've never been there, but Veradero, super safe and you should be fine. I would also say learn some basic Spanish. The people would definitely appreciate it and they love when people are trying to learn the language. Most people do speak English, but if you do leave the resort, I find there's a lot less people that speak English. You shouldn't have an issue if you don't speak any Spanish. Tipping. Tipping is not mandatory, it's definitely customary in Cuba, but of course you tip if you have great service. So typically 2 or 3 CUC, if you're having like a couple drinks, maybe with one other person, is average. If you're having dinner, for example, for dinner you'd probably want to tip a little bit more. Typically it's like 5 to 10 CUC, that's what we tipped, and maybe we went a little bit overboard, I'm not really sure. But I do know that everything is really expensive for Cuban people. For example, if they want to buy a car or electronics, makeup, technology, a house, traveling, it's very expensive, and their monthly salary is about $16 to $40 a month depending on what they do for a living. So they really heavily rely on the tips. So it's up to you, but again, it's not mandatory, but it is very appreciated. Safety, that's something that you don't have to worry about because Cuba is super safe. The people are so genuine, so friendly. I love the Cuban people, they're really nice. And they are never gonna bother you, never gonna harass you, and you never have to worry about that. Even if you go out at night, you go to bars, dancing, whatever, it's super safe. Obviously, use your common sense, you know. I mean, if you're a single woman and you're dressed really provocatively and you're going out at night, I mean, yeah, you're gonna probably, you know, you're gonna get some attention. So just be careful, be smart, and use your common sense. There you have it. I hope those tips were helpful for you. If you've never been to Cuba, and if you've been before, let me know, is there anything that you have questions about? Is there anything that I did not cover that maybe you've experienced, that you've had a challenge with? Please let me know, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.